The Tennis Gambling Podcast on the Sports Game Podcast Network is brought to you by Onyx Fantasy. Sign the promo code SGPN to score up to $1,000 bonus cash. We're also brought to you by Rhythm. Get your 7-day free trial today by going to sportsgamblers.com's Rhythm, sportsgamblers.com, RITHMM. We're also brought to you by the Sports Game Podcast Free Roll Football Contest. Up to $3,500 in prizes up for grabs. And a reminder, go to sportsgamepodcast.com/free roll to enter today. And welcome, everybody, to the Tennis Gambling Podcast here on the Sports Game Podcast Network. It's currently time to get into the semifinals for the U.S. Open. On the women's side, the match is taking place on Thursday. It's currently Thursday, September 5th, roughly 1 a.m. Eastern Time. I'm Rosso, Scott Reichel, once again going solo for this pod. Going to start off with the usual, which is recapping what happened in the last episode, or technically 2 episodes ago, for the women's matches in the quarterfinals. Then we'll preview the semifinal matches and wrap up the show with the lock and dog picks. Before into that, though, I want to take care of some housekeeping. I want to remind you once again to like, subscribe on YouTube. A reminder also, if you're listening to the podcast on Spotify or Apple, that's okay too. But don't forget to leave a rating and a review. Leave some feedback so we know what can. I'd say so you can just let your voice be known what can either improve with the show or if you like the show the way it is. Point is, they'll leave some feedback either way. Did notice that the subscribers have been going up per episode and the view count's been pretty high. So thank you if you have been enjoying the content. Hopefully you keep enjoying it and profiting in the last couple rounds of the event. Either way, though, a reminder, check out the merch store, the SGPN merch store. A lot of great Tennis Game Podcast merch. We have sweatshirts, t-shirts, and mugs, all high quality and all very affordable. So recommend getting yourself something on the merch store. And a reminder, we also have some great deals going on right now. A reminder that we do have a free roll contest going on, which I'll mention in a second, but also a reminder that the NFL does officially start today. It is Thursday, and you have Thursday Night Football between the Chiefs and the Ravens. And a reminder that the Sports Game Podcast is back picking every NFL game, ATS, like they've done since 2011. So if you want some thoughts on actual games, check out the Sports Game Podcast because they give you predictions on every single game. Plus, make sure to enter the free roll football contest up to $3,500 in cash up for grabs. Sign up at sportsgamepodcast.com/free roll, sportsgamepodcast.com/free roll. So time to get into the actual recap of what happened in the women's episode. I'll skip the men's lock and dog picks for now. I'll get into that for the next episode for the semis, just for cohesion. A spoiler, not a very good episode for us on the men's side for the quarters. Either way, though, for the actual women's episode, we ended up splitting. We won the lock, lost the dog. Absolute heartbreaker on the dog. Before the lock, nice easy winner. We had Mukova minus 2.5 games, minus 138. Line flew. I think it closed to like 3.5 games. Didn't matter as she dominated and she won in straight sets. Looked really good. Had a bit of a stomach issue, though, in the second set, but she was able to overcome it as she won comfortably. It's a nice winner there for the lock. For the dog, we had Badoza and Navarro over 2.5 sets at plus 135, which looked like free money. Navarro won the first set. Badoza's up 5-1 in the second set. We need one more game. And Badoza lost 6 games in a row. So that's kind of how that went. Navarro did win in straight sets. Absolute heartbreaker at the end of the day. Just a shame that Badoza completely fell apart. Yeah, in hindsight, her and Tsitsipas might be perfect for each other. I'm only kidding, but the point is Badoza had a great opportunity to cash us the bet and to force the decider. Didn't get there. As I think she won like 6 points ever since she was up in the second set 5-1. She completely imploded, and Navarro got the job done. But Badoza blew us a pretty easy dog win, at least based on how the script was unfolding. 5-1 in the second, and you blow the set. That's pretty rough. Couldn't even get a breaker out of it. Point is, though, Badoza ended up losing in straight sets, so picked up a loss there for the dog. As for the matches itself, overall, some surprising overall matches, or I should say results, but nothing too shocking. Navarro beat Badoza in straight sets. Once again, that was surprising, but Badoza really had a golden opportunity to force a third set and fell apart once she went up 5-1. So pretty rough in general, but yeah, she ended up winning a total of, I think it was 5 points since being up 5-1. So it was just insane. But either way, she fell apart. Sabalenka destroyed Zhang. That wasn't even close. Sabalenka won 6-1, 6-2. Good for us because we had Sabalenka to win the quarter, so I guess that's a good profit there. And we have Navarro to win the quarter as well. So nice plus money prices there. I'll recap the quarters in a second. But overall, 2 pretty interesting matches. You had basically 1.5 matches that were not competitive, and then the Badoza second set turned into a competitive one. But the Sabalenka match was an absolute just mess. On behalf of Zhang, she got her ass kicked, and she ended up kind of sulking at the net in the post-match handshake, and you saw Sabalenka give her kind of a face out of it. You can argue it's poor sportsmanship. I get it. You're a competitor. You're trying to win a U.S. Open. You won the gold medal in the Olympics a couple months ago. Could have been a better handshake from Zhang. It wasn't like she was mad at Sabalenka. It just seemed like she was mad at herself for not playing well, but some people kind of gave her a hard time for it because it was a pretty, I'll just say, weak handshake on her behalf, but Sabalenka dominated, and that was a very, very straightforward win for her. Either way, though, getting into the matches on Thursday, two pretty straightforward matches. Mukova killed Maya. That one we did predict pretty easily. And then for the other one, we mentioned that Pegula we thought was live to potentially win. We didn't pick her to win against Swiatek, but we did pick the games. We thought that Pegula plus 4.5 games was insanely disrespectful based on her run throughout the last couple of weeks in the summer. As she ended up winning a 1,000 title, lost in the final in Cincinnati to Sabalenka. She was in great form, had not dropped a set in the event, and we thought Swiatek, with her potentially weak serve, could struggle to actually put Pegula away. We thought she'd win in the end, which we did not get right, but we did like Pegula plus the games, and she got there, and we thought the price was definitely off for Swiatek. And I see someone in the comment section telling me that they actually cashed on Pegula money line and Pegula in straight sets. I'm sure that was a very nice payday for you, Mel, so congrats on that one. Point is, though, Pegula got the job done, and now she's in her first ever Grand Slam semi. Was constantly losing in quarters, but she finally broke through, so nice for her, and we'll see if she can get the job done on Thursday. Anyway, once again, really not any insane amounts of drama. You had the second set in the Pegula, the second set in the Pegula match was kind of interesting. We ended up seeing Pegula go up a break, then she gave it back, and then she eventually broke again, but pretty straightforward. Swiatek was awful, just simply put. It just felt like Pegula was extremely solid, and she really limited the unforced errors. Swiatek couldn't keep the ball in play, and the unforced error count got up there. Not to mention the fact that Swiatek in general is not the biggest server. So not many free points for Swiatek on the serve, and Pegula just kept the ball in play. And it just seemed like Swiatek lost most of the long rallies, and that was kind of how Pegula won. She played well, though. It was kind of a mix where you're going to look at the stat sheet and go, well, Swiatek was terrible, so many unforced errors. A big reason for that is because you ended up seeing Pegula just not miss for basically an hour and a half, and as a result, she ended up just having to, Swiatek being, she had to go for a lot, I'd say, of more risky shots because Pegula just wouldn't miss. So it just seemed like Swiatek decided to ramp up the aggression and to ramp up the danger with her actual shots, and it came back to bite her. So either way, nice win there for Pegula, but the main drama was the second set in the Badoza match. That was basically it. All four quarterfinal matches ended in straight sets, which kind of sucked. Either way, though, hopefully the semifinal matchups are more competitive. Nothing else to really recap for the quarters. Once again, pretty straightforward, and we'll get into the semis in a second. Before we do that, though, and remind you once again that we are brought to Monarch Fantasy because they have a pick'em, and they give you a chance to win 1,000 times your entry if you do play the pick'em. The NFL's back, starts officially today with the Ravens and Chiefs, so there's a ton of fun pick'em specials to get you started. And a reminder that if you do want to use specials and boost on your flexed entries, you can do so. That is now a thing. I'll probably end up doing something with Rashee Rice receiving yards in that first game with Hollywood Brown being injured. So I do think that there's going to be a decent amount of workload for Rashee Rice to work with. And at the end of the day, I think Rashee Rice should play well in this matchup. But sign up with the promo code SGPN to claim a special pick in the first time deposit offer up to $1,000 bonus cash on fantasy. Promo code SGPN. Welcome back, everyone, to the Tennis Gambling Podcast. Just finished recapping what happened in the quarters. Time to get into the semifinal matchups in the women's side taking place on Thursday. Starting off with the early match, you have Sabalenka taking on Navarro. Sabalenka's about minus 450. Navarro's about plus 360 for the game spread, minus 4.5 for Sabalenka, plus 4.5 for Navarro. The over-under in games is 20.5. Sabalenka in straight sets is around minus 140, give or take, and Navarro to win a set is plus 115. The over 2.5 sets is plus 170. Now, for the sake of this matchup, I will point out they faced off 2 times this season, and the 2 meetings have actually been competitive as they faced off in the French Open. Or I should say they've been a split, as each player did win one of the 2 meetings this season. They faced off in Indian Wells a couple of months ago back in March, and you ended up seeing Navarro win in 3. Sabalenka wasn't exactly in great form, but still won in 3. That's a win nonetheless on hard court. Faced off, though, in the French Open in June, and Sabalenka killed Navarro, winning 6-2, 6-3. On top of that, Navarro had 0 break points in the entire match, so Sabalenka served very well, and Navarro had no answers. Now, I'll put it this way. Looking at the actual path of both players, they have been really good. Sabalenka's only dropped 1 set, and she ended up dropping the first set to Alexandrova. After that, she has been dominant. She has not dropped more than 4 games in a single set since dropping that first set against Alexandrova, so she has rebounded quite nicely. Navarro, though, has been doing well for the most part, as she's been winning most of her matches comfortably. She won in straight sets in the first 2 rounds, then won in straight sets against Badoza. Should have lost the second set there, did lose the second set to Goff, and lost the second set to Kostyuk. So she's had a hard time with second sets recently, but the point is she has won in straight sets in 3 of her 5 matches here in this event. Now, Sabalenka's been so good that I have a hard time picking against her. And the real question is, with Navarro being a top 15 player in the world, and Sabalenka being, once again, a top 2 player in the world, do I think minus 430, minus 450 is a fair price for Sabalenka on the money line? I think it is. I think Sabalenka is going to win. Now, Sabalenka has been here before. We know that she's had a couple of deep runs in the U.S. Open. She lost in the final last year to Goff in 3 sets, so we do know that she has been close to winning a U.S. Open title without actually getting there, but she has been in bigger matches in her career. She, of course, is a Grand Slam champion, so the nerves should not be a factor for her, but she has been incredible. And the fact that she was able to just beat a top 10 player in the world in Zhang like it was nothing. I know Zhang hasn't had any success against her in the head-to-head, as now currently Zhang is 0-3, not winning any sets in the matchups, but Zhang's still number 7 in the world, and she did win the gold medal in Paris over the summer. I know the different surface, so the point is Zhang is a good player, made the Australian Open final this year, and Sabalenka just kicked her ass. So I do think that based on how well she played, I think Sabalenka is easily the person to beat. That's not saying much. We all know this. I think she was the person to beat even before Swiatek got eliminated. But I do think for the sake of this matchup, I just have a hard time trusting Navarro to really deal with the firepower that Sabalenka has. She's been ripping the forehand extremely just well. She's been precise with it. She's been just unloading on the wing. And I just feel like when you're looking at the overall path that Navarro's had, she did beat Goff. The path, though, has not been that bad. Beating Badoza was a good win, but once again, that was an absolute punch job by Badoza in the final 5 games of the second set. Goff, she did beat in 3, and I know that she was defending champion. Goff also did double fault 19 times in that match, so Goff was clearly just underwhelming for the entire matchup itself. Still won 3, but Goff only landed 46% of her first serves, so Goff was really off her game, and Navarro did win, but it wasn't exactly the easiest win in the world. I do think, though, looking at the rest of the path here, Kostyuk took her to 3, Goff took her to 3 despite serving terribly. I do think at the end of the day, you're looking at a spot where Sabalenka is right now the class of the tournament by a wide margin. I don't think it's very close. You can argue Pegula, just based on her not dropping a set yet and with her beating Swiatek. But I think we'd agree that if Sabalenka played against Pegula right now in a rematch of Cincinnati, Sabalenka would be the decent favorite, probably like minus 250, minus 300. And I can't really disagree with it because we saw Sabalenka win in Cincinnati entering the event, and she didn't drop a set. So you're looking at right now a 10-match winning streak for Sabalenka, and she's won in straight sets in 9 of those 10 matches. So she has not just been winning, she's been dominating. And I do think with that being the case, she's going to dominate once again, maybe get a breaker in there or one close set. But I think at the end of the day, Navarro is not the greatest server, and I do think that Sabalenka's firepower is going to be too much for Navarro to deal with. So give me Sabalenka in straight sets. Not going to reinvent the wheel here, but with her dominant performance in Cincinnati and with how well she's played here in the U.S. Open, I just think it's too much for Navarro to handle. And I know Navarro beat her in Indian Wells a couple months ago. That was, in my opinion, a while back, and Sabalenka has regained her form since then, obviously, winning Cincinnati and being just so good in the U.S. Open this year. I think you're looking at a spot, though, where maybe nerves play a factor. It is the biggest match Navarro's ever played in. It's her first ever Grand Slam semi, so I'll see if she can actually rise to the occasion. But I do think that Sabalenka should look sharp here. She's been really good, and I do think she'll be able to win this one in straight sets. So give me Sabalenka 2-0 as my pick for this one at around minus 138, give or take. Moving on, though, to the next match. You have the more competitive one on paper. For this one, you have Pegula at minus 155. You have Mukova at plus 135. For the actual spread, minus 2.5 for Pegula. You have plus 2.5 for Mukova. For the over-under, 21.5 games or 22.5. The over 2.5 sets is available at around plus 130, give or take. And if you want to go for the straight sets, you can find that at around under minus 155. Pegula in straight sets is plus 160. Mukova in straight sets is plus 300. Now, both players have been really comfortable so far in the event. In fact, neither player has dropped a set. Pegula beat Swiatek, the number 1 player in the world, on Wednesday. Didn't drop a set, but she has not dropped a set in the entire event. As for Mukova, same thing. She has been coasting as well. Should have dropped the second set to Osaka, as Osaka was serving for the set, choked it, and then you saw Mukova win in a breaker. But every other set's been pretty straightforward. So the point is, I do think that both players are in great form. Mukova, though, was a bit sick in the match against Haddad Maia. She had to go to the bathroom a couple times, and her stomach was bothering her. Claims it was a bug, so it wasn't like an injury or anything. It does seem like she had a bit of a stomach issue, but I'm assuming that's going to pass by the time this match starts, because it's the late match taking place at around about 8:15 p.m. Eastern Time. So I'm assuming Mukova's stomach should be fine for the sake of this matchup. Now, I do think based on the head-to-head, I have to mention they faced off entering the U.S. Open, because they faced off in Cincinnati right before it, and Pegula did win in 3 sets. Now, Mukova wasn't exactly playing many matches before that because she came back from injury, so she was a little bit rusty. Point is, though, she ended up giving Pegula a run for her money and then lost the next 2 sets. But she's been really good in the event, obviously not dropping a set, and she's been very aggressive, very decisive, and it seems like her overall variety can give players problems. She has solid net skills, a decent serve, pretty solid on the wings, and I do think Pegula might end up struggling if Mukova is able to change up the looks. If Mukova hits her with some drop shots, maybe moving her side to side. Pegula, for the most part, is a baseliner, and that's kind of it. You don't see much variety from her game. She doesn't really need it because she's been extremely solid and she's been coasting. But I do think Mukova's overall weapons can give Pegula some problems at various points in this matchup, which is why we saw, for example, in Cincinnati, the match go to 3 sets. Now, for the sake of the actual value, I think Pegula should be favored. Assuming Mukova, though, is healthy again, I don't see much separating these players. I think Mukova is, once again, a very solid player whose ranking isn't that impressive right now. That is solely because of injury. Mukova's ranked 52nd. We know that she is a very, very talented player. She's made a Grand Slam final before. This is Pegula's biggest match of her career. And I do think you're looking at a spot where Mukova just has a lot of weapons that I think that people keep underestimating, and she's going to keep surprising people because she keeps winning. But you're looking at Mukova, for example. She made the U.S. Open semis last year, made the French Open final last year. She's made the quarters minimum in all 4 Grand Slams. So the point is, she's a very solid player, and I think that she's actually alive to win this. Now, the crowd, of course, will support Pegula because she's the American, and she also just beats Swiatek. But I do think for the sake of this matchup, I think I am going to lean to Pegula to probably, I think she's probably going to win, but I don't see much value at the minus 155. I think I'd rather take Mukova plus 2.5 games or plus 3 games in the spot. I see 3.5 at minus 150 if you want to lay some serious juice, but maybe the overs a look you might be tempted by. But we saw them go to 3 sets in Cincinnati about 2 weeks ago or so. I think you're looking at a spot where Mukova can definitely keep Pegula. I think Mukova can keep Pegula off balance with the variety she has. Maybe a little bit of net play where she's able to use the saber. Maybe she's able to just hit a couple of shots down the line or cross court and run in and surprise Pegula for an easy volley. Point is, though, it's not going to be easy. I think it's going to be an absolute war. I would lean to the over in this matchup, but I do think you're looking at a spot where Pegula should be favored. I would lean to her to win, kind of like a repeat in Cincinnati, where you see the favorite win, but it's close and it probably goes the distance. So I am going to go with Pegula to win, but I think there's value on the dog here plus the games, and I am going to go with the over as probably my main play for this matchup at around 31.5. That's going to wrap it up, though, for the actual 2 semifinal matchup previews. Now it's time for the lock and dog picks. However, before we get into the actual lock and dog one, remember, once again, they're brought to you by Rhythm, because Rhythm can help you build your own models if you want it for football. They have college football and the NFL. And a reminder that they have a lot of great features. They can give you predictions on money lines, spreads, totals, and props with their models. You can either build your own or use one of the top performing models on the leaderboard. So if you are intimidated by the concept of actually building a model, you don't have to start from scratch. You can just let Rhythm help you, or you can just copy one that's already available on the leaderboards to make life easier for you. But a reminder that they give you predictions and player props on every game. They have a bunch of stats, research, trend analysis, and they have a lot of other resources to help you become better. And a reminder that they had Colorado versus North Dakota State under 59.5, which was an easy win there. So point is, a nice overall selection from Rhythm with model-backed picks that can help make life easier for you by doing the research for you, so you don't have to spend a lot of time breaking down each matchup. Now, reminder, you can claim your 7-day free trial today, so you can give it a try before you fully commit. 7-day free trial by going to sportscampus.com, Rhythm, sportscampus.com/RATHMM. We're also brought to you by Game Time. Game Time is now an authorized ticket marketplace of the MLB, which makes getting tickets easier and faster. And a reminder, prices on the Game Time app actually go down closer to first pitch. They have a great last-minute deals on prices using the receipt and their lowest price guarantee. Game Time takes the guesswork out of buying tickets. And a reminder that the image receipt use is my favorite feature because it tells you whether or not there'll be an obstruction in your line of view. It'll show you the exact expected view you would be getting from that seat on the app before you spend your money. So you know exactly what you are getting yourself into before you hit the send button and before you actually provide your payment information. Point is, though, if you want to save money, I recommend going to Game Time for your tickets because you can go to the Game Time app, create an account, and if you use the promo code SGPN, you get $20 off your first purchase. Again, terms apply. Create an account and use code SGPN for $20 off. Download the app today. Last minute tickets, lowest price, guaranteed. Welcome back, everyone, to the Tennis Gambling Podcast. Just finished getting into the preview for the semi-matches in the Women's U.S. Open. Time for the lock and dog picks. For the lock, I think I am going to go back to the chalk here. You have a massive favorite against a player that is in the biggest match of her career, and I understand Navarro's been good. I get she beat the defending champion in Goff. Point is, Sabalenka right now is a runaway freight train, and I am not going to stand in her path. Give me Sabalenka to win in straight sets at minus 138. Shop around there. You might be able to find a better line. No FanDuel at minus 160, but I shopped around that. I did find minus 138 offshore, so I'm going to go with that as my lock. Sabalenka, I said before, did win Cincinnati, and she parlayed that into this tournament. But she has won 10 straight matches. 9 of those wins were in straight sets. Navarro has never played in a Grand Slam semi before, so nerves might play a factor. Had a couple of competitive and dicey moments in the last 3 matches, going to 3 sets in the previous 2, and then she ended up winning in straight sets against Badoza, which was an absolute punt job by Badoza. So the point is, you're looking at Navarro, who has been a bit shaky in some matches. She's mostly been solid, but Sabalenka destroyed her in the French Open in the rematch after Indian Wells. It seems like Sabalenka's back in peak form, and after beating a top 10 player, the Olympic gold medalist, in basically an hour, only dropping 3 games in the match, I think Sabalenka right now is just peaking. And I think that she's obviously better than Navarro is in terms of talent. Navarro is not a great server, and I think you're looking at a spot where Sabalenka should constantly be involved, deeply involved in these return games. And I think that when you ended up seeing Sabalenka and what she did against Zhang's serve, Zhang had no chance. It felt like every single service game she had went to basically deuce or like 30. So I think that Sabalenka is going to put enough pressure on to break through in both sets. Give me Sabalenka to win in straight sets at minus 138 as my lock. For my dog, I really didn't have much to go with for the Mukova match because I thought it was going to be very close. I think it could go over 2.5 sets, but I'm kind of tired of betting the over 2.5 sets in women's matches, and you kind of see it unfold poorly for you because one player falls apart in the second set. So instead of doing that, I am going to go. Plus, it's worth mentioning that Pegula and Mukova both have not dropped the set yet in the event, so I decided not to go for the over 2.5 sets. Instead, I am going to double down with Sabalenka, but I found a pretty interesting prop on DraftKings. Now, there's a lot of legs to it. It's 3 legs, basically a same game parlay, but it's built for you on DraftKings. So the prop's going to be Sabalenka to record the first ace, the first break of serve, and her to win the match. And all 3 of those things to happen are even money. Now, Sabalenka is a minus 450 favorite, so winning, for the most part, I don't want to say it's a foregone conclusion because, of course, that's why you play the matches. And we have seen crazier results in this tournament, most on the men's side, though, with Alcaraz and Djokovic losing in relatively shocking fashion. Point is, though, it's a way to get an even money price at a minus 450 favorite. Navarro, though, ace-wise, has been awful in the event. Navarro's had a grand total of 3 aces in the entire tournament. She's had 0 aces in 3 of the 5 matches. So acing is not exactly a part of her skill set. And Sabalenka, on the other hand, we know has one of the bigger serves on the entire tour. She has 22 aces in the 5 matches. So Sabalenka should dominate the ace count in this matchup. And I think with that being the case, there's a decent opportunity for Sabalenka to get the first ace of the match. And I do like that leg quite a bit since Navarro has been really unable to generate many aces, if any aces, in the majority of the matches here in the U.S. Open. So I like that leg too. And first break of serve, Sabalenka did face off against Navarro in the French Open. Navarro did not have a single breakpoint opportunity in the entire match. I'm pretty sure Zhang only had 1 breakpoint chance in the quarterfinal match. So Sabalenka has been serving very well, and Navarro, we know, is not the biggest server. Mentioned a second ago with the ace counts, and I do think Sabalenka's return game has been very, very solid in the event. But it just seems like Sabalenka's overall game is translating very well to the courts right now, and as a result, I am going to go with her winning basically in 2 separate ways. I'm going to go with her in straight sets at the pretty affordable price there is the lock, and for the dog, I am going to go with kind of a niche prop available on DraftKings. I think it's only on DraftKings. So apologies if you don't have it, but the point is I do think Sabalenka should be in a good spot to get the first ace, the first break of serve, and her to win the match at even money. So once again, the plays for the women's semifinal matchups, the lock's going to be on Sabalenka, winning straight set to minus 138. For the dog, I am going to go with Sabalenka, first ace, first break of serve, and to win the match. I forgot what it's titled under on DraftKings, but match specials maybe? I'm trying to remember. I forgot the exact thing. I can pull it up right now. Point is, though, it is available on DraftKings, and it's even money. So if you're trying to tell me I could find a way to get Sabalenka, who right now is playing the best tennis of anybody in the world, and I can get a minus 450 favorite at even money, I will do that every time. And I think it's a pretty realistic outcome for her to win all three of those. But for the sake of this matchup, sorry, I'm trying to find the actual title of the, what is it under? Is it under match props? What is it under? I know it's under something. Sorry, I'm going to find it at some point. Let me just see it. Yeah, okay, so it's under match props, and it's under the match winner special. So that's where you can find it on DraftKings. Point is, I think Sabalenka rolls, and as a result, hopefully she ends up cashing the lock and dog picks for us in the same matchup. Either way, that's going to wrap it up for this episode. You can find me on Twitter at Reichel Radio. A reminder, we're back once again for the men's semifinal episode. So once again, women's matches are going to be on Thursday. Men's matches are on Friday. Then the women's finals on Saturday, and the men's finals on Sunday. That's the schedule for the U.S. Opens. We're going to do one episode per day on the events that are coming up and the matches that are coming up the following day. Point is, though, you can find me on the NBA show, WNBA show as well, and find me on the MLB show. Until next time, good luck to all of you and all of your bets. Bye, everyone.